European Union is still trying to finalize its divorce from the United Kingdom, and as a way of preparing for that eventuality, the Union continues to reach out to potential partners, especially in Africa, with a view to deepening socio-political and economic relationships. One of those initiatives has been playing out for a couple of years in Nigeria, where this year alone, the European Union has awarded scholarships to over 90 young Nigerians for various master's degree programs in universities across Europe under its Erasmus Mundus Joint Master Degrees Program. Joining us now from our Rise Abuja studio for greater insight into this particular program is Ambassador Ketil Karlsen, European Union Head of Delegation for Nigeria and the Economic Community of West African States. Ambassador Karlsen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on The Morning Show.
Good morning, everyone, and it's absolutely wonderful to be here this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Well, quickly, we're going to have a discussion around the scholarships given to over 90 Nigerians under the Erasmus Plus program. Now, what is Erasmus Plus? What is it about? When did it all start? And I would like to add to that, what is the difference between Erasmus Plus and Erasmus Mundus? Because I was a bit confused. So if you could just explain what the program is all about and how these 93 Nigerians who are beneficiaries this year, how they were selected.
Yes, so first of all, I must say it's absolutely wonderful to be the messenger of good news at times of so much crisis around the world. And, we see the challenges in terms of livelihood challenges as well. And fundamentally being able at this point of time to send a record high number of Nigerian students to Europe, I think it speaks volumes to the partnership that we have between the European Union and Nigeria in particular. If you look at 2019, we sent forth 44 students, and compared to that this year, more than double, now 93 students. Looking at a much wider array of years from 2004 to 2019, we had a total of 386 Nigerian students. So this year is really outstanding, and it shows that we will not be deterred by the current crisis to give priority to this so ever important partnership that we have with Nigeria. Now, the Erasmus program is a program that was established back in the 80s, in 87 to be exact, and initially mainly to have exchanges of students between the European countries themselves. But adding the Mundus title as well, we reached out to the entire world, understanding just how important it is to make sure that we have not only academic excellence, but also a cultural exchange. The opportunity for Nigerian students and students from all the countries around the world to get acquainted with the European cultures and languages, to meet friends and, future colleagues as well. So if you look at Nigeria's position this year, as a matter of fact, Nigeria is the top country in all of Africa, so there's not a single country in Africa with more students selected. And worldwide, it's up there together with India, Mexico, Brazil, Pakistan, and China as the top 6 countries to have selected students going to Europe. I think it's really, we do so many things as the European Union in Nigeria, of course, as you will have seen around the COVID-19 response and beyond. But I always feel genuinely proud when we select and send forth brilliant young Nigerian students going to Europe. They will have a transformative, life-changing experience. There's no doubt about it. And then our hope is, of course, that they will either find jobs in Europe or elsewhere, or even better, come back to Nigeria and give a little bit back to this beautiful country here as well.
Ambassador, why is it important? Why is this an important program for the EU? And what impact does it have on immigration of Nigerians to the EU?
Yeah, I'm really thankful that you raised this particular issue, because we talk so much about irregular migration. And again, you will see in Nigeria and in international news now, the scenes in Moria, in Greece, where we had one of the camps burning. Currently, there are people on vessels in the Mediterranean. Many tens of thousands of Nigerians stranded in Libya as well. We know the dangers of crossing the desert, of crossing the Mediterranean as well. So there's a lot of talk around irregular migration. But quite often we forget to look at the regular migration streams that exist as well. And Erasmus is really one of the top and most excellent examples of that, because this is a genuine opportunity for ordinary Nigerians, based on their merit and capacities and their abilities within their different fields, to go to Europe to achieve that academic excellence, to partner with students and universities there, and fundamentally to assist creating a better education base all over the world. And frankly, we learn a lot from the Nigerians coming to Europe and vice versa. I'm pretty sure that I would not be sitting here today talking to you as the ambassador of the European Union, representing some 450 million people from my continent, had I not done a similar thing many years ago, far too many years ago. But I was an exchange student myself. I went to Latin America at that point in time, and the takeaways from that, the experience, the development that gives you is really helping to broaden the shoulders, and of course to set the stage for contributing to the wider society. So when we look at Erasmus and the exchange student program, we do this because we genuinely believe in the importance of having this intercultural exchange. But we also do it because we fundamentally believe it's important to show that there are regular ways of migrating. There are opportunities to study and work in different countries. And we must always recognize the amazing contributions of Nigerians in so many different places. Nurses, doctors, lawyers, workers in all different sectors. And I think this is so important not to forget when we also look at the scourge of trafficking in human beings and irregular migration. So my hope is that over time we will see a gradual shift where more and more regular migration is taking place, whereas the irregular migration will stop altogether.
All right. When you said that you went to Latin America as a result of, movements and things like that, my eyes just glistened. I just feel like saying, "Come estás?" But that's not going to be the thrust of my question. My question is going to be about when this started and how is this, going to impact the dynamics between Africa and Europe at this time like this. I know the EU has been doing a lot, but Africa and Europe at a time like this, where there's a need for more trading partners and there's a need for more integration.
So I think everybody in Europe has perfectly understood the importance of Africa and our relations. Our president, Ursula von der Leyen, has put Africa at the very top of the priority list. If we look at our vice president, Borrell, he has mentioned how Africa is not only a sister continent, it's family to us. We're neighbors by the end of the day. So finding ways of partnering with Africa is absolutely vital. If we look at the demographics as well in Nigeria and beyond, we will see the population growth in Africa already ongoing. And if we get Nigeria right, there is an opportunity to get Africa right as well. I mean, the sheer size of this wonderful country is such that Nigeria must be a major priority for the European Union, and it is. And of course, an Erasmus student program is just one component of so many in our engagement with Nigeria. We work with what we like to call an integrated or comprehensive approach. So we work on political issues together. Now we are preparing for the next EU-AU summit, and there's not a single day where we are not in contact with our Nigerian counterparts here, having a very good and healthy dialogue around how can we keep promoting our common values. Having democracy, having human rights, making sure that there are opportunities for all, having a greener, more digitalized, climate-friendly economy in our countries, these sorts of things. So that political dialogue is ongoing every single day at all levels. And at the same time, of course, we continue to partner as development partners as well. And the European Union remains, together with the member states, the largest provider of development cooperation in Africa and in Nigeria. In all the different states of this country, having activities supporting the policies and the visions of the government here, of the civil society, and of the people creating new opportunities. But understanding, of course, that we cannot solve all the issues with development cooperation. We can support some best practices, we can exchange technologies, we can help each other in that sense, but by the end of the day, it's all about supporting a Nigerian-led effort. So political dialogue, development cooperation, and then of course trade and investment. The European Union remains by far the biggest trading partner for Nigeria. Around half of all exports from Nigeria are destined for Europe. But we would like to see that moving solidly beyond oil that currently dominates that trading partnership, seeing a diversification of the economy and bringing in more investors from Europe as well. When I see that Nigeria is the largest importer in the world of tomato paste, whilst at the same time having some of the best conditions in the world for growing tomato, there's something that is fundamentally wrong here. And if we can bring European investors with their knowledge and having them engaging in Kaduna State and in Kano State and in Kebbi and in other places, then it's a win-win situation, because of course this creates jobs and opportunities in Nigeria, but it creates business and opportunities for Europe as well. So this is the comprehensive approach that we want to see. Political dialogue, development engagement, working on trade and investment. And as part of that, these sorts of flagship initiatives like the Erasmus Mundus program is really assisting in fomenting and cementing and a wonderful symbol of that much wider partnership that we have.
Ambassador Karlsen, many young Nigerians listening to you, I'm sure would like to know, one, how can someone apply? And when you say it's for young Nigerians, what's the bracket? And then three, what is the criteria? Or rather, what are the criteria for the selection of beneficiaries? And then the program is titled Erasmus Plus 2014 to 2020. Is there any hope of an extension beyond the year 2020?
Yes, so the extension is already there. We are not going to abandon this program. Watch out for the announcement of the next round. Normally it's coming around October. What we do is that we always we put it on our own web pages, of course, so look out for the EU in Nigeria, but we also send the information to all the universities. We are in direct dialogue with the vice chancellors of the different universities in Nigeria. And of course, we are reaching out to youth organizations as well. When we did an event a few days ago for the 93 selected students this year, we invited members of the National Youth Corps to join us. So we did not do a closed ceremony for the selected few. We actually had literally thousands, more than 6,000 members of the National Youth Corps joining us virtually in the room as well. And I think having that access to information about this opportunity, and hopefully your program this morning as well will help, will only increase the base of those that apply, and by that we will see more selected as well. Now the selection is based sheerly and merely on merit. So there is no political decision making. I have nothing to do with selecting the students myself. This is done strictly between the universities involved in Europe and based on very strict criteria on the capacity and academic excellence of the students that apply. It's a program that caters for all different levels and age groups in the sense that there are lecturers, that researchers that can get scholarships as well, students at master level and so forth. So really just look out for this, Google it or watch it on the internet and you will see all the opportunities there. And then my hope is that, next year we will see even more Nigerians selected for this wonderful program.
What else is the EU doing to help young Nigerians? Would you like to share with us?
Well, there I have to ask you how many hours we have to respond to that question, because frankly we are doing quite a lot. The fact is that we have understood that 60% of the population or more in Nigeria are young people. We know that percentage is only going to grow in the future. So every single thing that is being done will only be successful if it caters for the needs of the young Nigerians, creating more opportunities. So when we work on democratic inclusivity, when we engage on electoral processes, like we are now doing in preparation for the polls in Edo State and Ondo State, for instance. But beyond that, since 1999, having invested more than 100 million euros in multiple programs on this, we make sure that the youth is a cross-cutting priority. Supporting the Not Too Young to Run bill when that was created, and the implementation afterwards, supporting Yaga in the work that they are doing now in Edo State, doing campaigns of moving around the country. I went to the 6 geopolitical zones myself to talk to thousands of young people, together with the INEC chairman ahead of the elections in 2019, to get as many young voters and politicians to participate as possible. When we work on promoting a stronger economy in Nigeria and we identify value chains such as tomato, ginger, leather, fashion, digital industries, sustainable power supply, etc. We always make sure that there is a youth component in that as well. When we support education and access to basic social services, this is only meaningful if at the same time we have a strong youth component. Alone for the reason of the sheer volume and size of the youth population in Nigeria, but also because that we understand as Europe that the stability and having a prosperous Nigeria in the medium to long term is a European interest as well. I mean, what is good for Nigeria is good for the European Union as well. And it's only to the extent that we address the root causes, the shortcoming in terms of access to jobs and opportunities, beyond day-to-day informal sector work. It's only to the extent that we cater for that we will have a stable and prosperous Nigeria in the medium to long term. Again, taking into consideration, the foreseen massive population growth in this country, and already, of course, seeing some conflicts and violence, pockets of violence around the country. If we do not address those root causes and create opportunities for youth, then I fear that we would only see more of that in the future. And that is not in the interest, of course, of Nigeria, but it's not in the interest of the European Union either. So in essence, I tried not to spend hours in answering your question, but in everything we do, there is a component related to youth.
Right, Ambassador, I'd like to talk to you about Brexit, EU and the UK negotiations. I mean, how far is that? What are the issues like? Let's just share, because a lot of us in Nigeria too, we're concerned, about what's happening in Brexit. So it's like it happens at our backyard here. What are the issues, the current crisis with the UK?
Yes, well, I think there's a bit of Brexit fatigue with all of us. You know, the conversation around Brexit has taken place for such a long time. Now we are today on the 11th of September, and you know the heinous attacks we saw, you know, back then. Comes to mind, and there's certain, you know, events in history where you will never forget, you know, where you were physically seated when you received the information, and certainly 9/11 is one of them. And you know, I will not compare the loss of human life to Brexit, but I vividly remember exactly, you know, where I was seated in my living room when I got the news of the outcome of the referendum in the UK, and that's already years ago. And of course, there's an ongoing negotiation. Again, we are drawing closer to yet another deadline. Very intense negotiations going on. You will have seen the expressions of concern from my senior leadership in Brussels over, you know, some suggestions that the initial agreement does not need to be followed by the letter. Of course, the credibility of international negotiations depend entirely on, you know, the full implementation of what has been agreed. But hopefully we will still be able to manage having, you know, an outcome here that will benefit both populations in the UK and in the European Union. And then from a Nigeria perspective, I must say that we have never stopped partnering with the UK. There's not a day here where we are not sharing notes or, you know, engaging together on a number of different issues. We have a shared agenda to a very large extent, and a wonderful collaboration on the ground. A lot of the initiatives that we support here are also supported by the British government, and you know, it doesn't make sense to operate in silos. So we will continue partnering and working together. And frankly, I don't see it as a competition as such when it comes to having access to markets and investment and trade opportunities in Africa and Nigeria. You know, the potential here is just so immense that there is space enough for everyone. On the contrary, I think it's for everyone to look at ways of engaging more, investing more, you know, making sure that there is a conducive environment for doing that, because that is the only way that we can build as well the economy of the future of Nigeria, and that's in the interest of the European Union. I'm sure it's in the interest of the United Kingdom as well. So I'm optimistic that that partnership will only be strengthened in the years to come.
Ambassador Karlsen, very early in the COVID-19 pandemic matter, the European Union was one of the first to provide support for Nigeria with about 50 million euros as a grant. Would you like to talk a bit about that and the support that the EU is giving to not just Nigeria, but other middle-income countries?
Yes, thank you for raising that question. And I think if I'm ever going to write my memoirs, there will be a chapter on that engagement, because very early on we heard from President Buhari, we heard from the Presidential Task Force, or what was going to become the Presidential Task Force, and from civil society and a lot of Nigerians, you know, the request for support as this scourge of the COVID-19 crisis was coming to Nigeria. And I still kept at home this day newspaper front page when the first case was discovered in Nigeria now more than half a year ago. And we mobilized very rapidly. I mean, I think probably more rapidly than ever seen before. We mobilized a massive support from the European Union, you know, taking out 50 million euros at a point in time where the crisis was immense in Europe as well. And frankly, you know, our own countries were struggling with fighting this pandemic, because we understood the importance of showing solidarity and partnering with Africa. And again, like my vice president said at that point in time, you know, if if we don't deal with this pandemic in Africa, if it's not addressed in Africa, then we will not be in a position to solve this matter altogether. So we reached out to our partners in the multilateral system and to the UN in Nigeria in particular. And I must say that the UN really delivered. In record time, they established a basket fund, a one UN basket fund, and we were able to channel the funding there very swiftly. Purchase on the international market the things that were most needed, testing, equipment, all the different equipment needed for the health sector as well, and bringing that in swiftly to Nigeria. And I just took a fresh look this morning. Now all of this has been distributed to all 36 states in Nigeria. This is one of the reasons that now there is a testing capacity. Like we see now 15,000 tests available per day in Nigeria, quite significant. So we really genuinely contributed there. And I think it's a time of crisis that you get to see who your true friends and partners are by the end of the day. And I'm really genuinely proud and happy that we have demonstrated, that at this point in time when really needed, we stepped up to the challenge from the European Union and supported Nigeria, providing as well food items, basic items to those most in need, to people with disability, working with the authorities, with civil society to try to, overcome this horrendous challenge on the pandemic within the pandemic with sexual and gender-based violence that we have seen. I mean, these rape cases, these murder cases, that we have seen around the country, trying to find solutions there, availing shelters, availing, better access to sexual assault referral centers. And the list goes on and on. NAPTIP, we supported NAPTIP. The National Police, we supported the National Police, and so forth and so forth. So genuinely, we have turned every single stone out there, looking at our existing programs as well and seeing, what can be done to support Nigeria in this effort. And, we pray that we will see continuous declining numbers and that we will soon be able to overcome fundamentally this crisis. But the storm is not over yet. By the way, as well, making sure that the Northeast, where already you have such immense numbers of IDPs and, a conflict that is already such a daunting challenge, adding additional support there. Our humanitarian agency, ECHO, availed 17.5 million euros in additional support for food security, for water and sanitation in the Northeast because of the COVID-19 crisis. So genuinely, I feel that, we have never before seen such a genuine partnership between the European Union and Nigeria before. We call it Team Europe because it's not only the EU and it's not only me and the delegation, it's also our member states. There are 19 member states present here in Nigeria, in Abuja, in Lagos as well, and they have all done an immense job to make sure that we support to our best ability.
Well said, Ambassador. But despite these efforts, contributions, and commendation for the Nigerian government, how it has handled the COVID-19 crisis, many Nigerians were surprised to see that Nigeria made it to that list, blacklisting Nigerians from traveling to Europe. Because of the COVID-19 crisis. I wonder what you have to say to that. But let me also add on the trade relations matter. You said, and we do agree, we are one of the largest partners, trading partners, the EU and Europe in general with Nigeria. But beyond oil, can we really say that for other commodities, for instance, agriculture? What's happening? Would you say trade relations are at their best between these trading partners, Nigeria and the EU and Europe in general?
Well, excellent questions as well. And on the flight situation, I'm really happy that you raised this actually, because there are some misunderstandings around the notion that there should be a blacklisting of Nigerians. That is not at all the case. And I think, some have used words like reciprocity and retaliation even. And the only thing that is there is that the European Union, just like Nigeria, has made some protocols on how to travel into the European Union and what are the categories of people that can travel. For a very extended point of time, Nigeria as well only had extraordinary travel to Nigeria, diplomats, essential staff, people that really needed to come here. And it's exactly the same in the case of the European Union. So there's no difference fundamentally between the way that, Europeans have been able to travel to Nigeria and Nigerians to Europe. And I can say there's not a single aeroplane that has been banned to travel from Nigeria to the European Union. So this notion that there should be, some sort of blacklisting or banning of Nigerian flights it's simply not correct. But we are happy to see that, this cautious approach of now having flights operating again, commercial flights. Of course, we are hopeful to see as well, as soon as possible, that more flights from the EU can go to Nigeria, because this is so important for having, the economic, the machine operating again. And it needs to be done in a cautious manner. I think the presidential task force here has done very well in terms of identifying the necessary precautions, testing before you leave, going into isolation after 7 days, testing again, and only if negative should you come out of isolation. I was in Europe myself and came back 3 weeks ago, and I was in strict self-isolation and didn't see anyone for 2 full weeks. This is part of my responsibility as a citizen as well. And if everybody adheres to those rules and guidelines, then I'm sure that, we can see even more flights operating between Europe and Nigeria as well. I do believe that the Nigerian government and the authorities have, managed the situation quite well. It's very early establishment of the presidential task force, having the architecture in place, of course, appealing to the governors to take the necessary decisions. I'm not envious on the politicians and decision makers at the times of crisis. They need to take very, very tough decisions. I mean, the implications for ordinary people are very significant. Now we see the prices going up on fuel, on electricity. We see the impact on livelihood opportunities, especially for the poor. Quite often it's the most vulnerable and the poorest that are the heaviest impacted for the longest time. So I'm sure that none of the decision makers have taken these decisions lightly, but fundamentally I think that a lot of courageous and important and necessary decisions have been taken. Attribution on a pandemic is very difficult to tell. I mean, if we had decided this, would that have impacted so, or the other way around? It's very difficult to tell, but I'm certain that, had the Nigerian government not been as strict as has been the case, then we would have been in a completely different situation as of today. And then finally, your question on trade and investment, and whether we are at a best sort of scenario when it comes to beyond oil and agriculture. I mean, certainly not. There's so much more that can be done. I think sometimes having access to oil or minerals or diamonds in some cases can be a blessing in disguise, because it tends to undermine historically, the continuation of efficient production in other sectors. Simply because there's too easy access to foreign currency through selling oil. And I think agriculture is a case in point, where in Nigeria the sector has suffered. I am aware that internally, of course, in the country, agriculture is a vital provider of jobs and by far the biggest sector in the economy, but much more can be done. And I think there is a huge unexplored potential to have more agricultural exports, including to Europe as well. And that is why we try to identify value chains. I mean, commodities and products that have a potential for a very, lucrative, potentially lucrative and well-paying market, with 450 million plus consumers willing to pay a good price for good products in Europe. And there again, we have seen, tomato, ginger, leather, fashion, some of the digital products in Nigeria, sustainable energy production, etc. There are plenty of opportunities, but we need to be better at tapping into them. And of course, it takes a comprehensive approach where also training, vocational training, education is provided, where there is the legal certainty that investments are protected, and of course the security situation, of course, is part of the equation as well. So we do need a comprehensive approach to increase the conducive environment for more investments. But then I'm certain that we will also see more trade beyond oil between the European Union and Nigeria in the years to come.
Right, real quickly, Ambassador, I just want to talk about still trade, but for small businesses now. We've got close to 40 million small businesses in Nigeria. The Americans have something called AGOA, Growth and Opportunity Act, where it's easier for people to be able to, send products to America without even paying any tariff at all, and that was extended recently. Is the EU going to do something like that, or do you have a framework like that? And secondly, I want to know what the EU is doing about gender-based violence. I mean, is there any new thing on the cards as regards data and processing of gender-based violence and reportage?
Yes, so on the first question, indeed, small and medium-sized enterprises are such a vital part of the economy everywhere. I mean, that's the case in Europe as well. That's largely how, a lot of our countries are building their economies. That is what is sustaining, export. This is really where we have the big, drivers of change within the innovation as well within the economies. So this is already a very significant factor in Nigeria, but should be even more so. Now, in terms of their access to European markets, this is exactly the spirit of the economic partnership agreement that was negotiated and agreed with ECOWAS some years ago, but where Nigeria has still not opted for signing the final agreement, probably being concerned about the exposure to competition. But I think with the inbuilt preferences that are given to Nigerian businesses, if really thoroughly studied, I think people would reach the conclusion that this would be a huge advantage for small and medium-sized enterprises in Nigeria. But whether we have an economic partnership agreement in full implementation or not, we are not sleeping on the laurels here. We are engaging, we are having business-to-business contacts. We have programs in Europe supporting the development of small and medium-sized enterprises in Nigeria as well. So there's a lot going on there and a lot of potential. Now, on the sexual and gender-based violence, and this is a very different issue, of course, altogether, this is a vital priority. We have appealed to all the decision makers here to really address this emergency. It's great to see that the Governors Forum decided to call an emergency on this issue. President Buhari kindly spoke out on this issue when we hosted, together with the United Nations and our joint Spotlight initiative, he spoke out on the issue of gender-based violence, signaling that this is such an important priority. I think the outcry that we have seen from about everyone in Nigeria. I mean, I'm genuinely concerned opening the newspaper in the morning to see what kind of stories I will see in terms of violence against women and girls and sometimes boys as well. But the EU is doing a lot. We have supported the 16 current sexual assault referral centers in different states of the country, more coming. We are supporting shelters. We supported the creation of the National Register for Sexual Offenders. And with the Spotlight initiative, this flagship major initiative, together with the United Nations, together with the key partners in government, we are bridging between doing actual things on the ground. I mean, supporting real action on the ground, and then at the same time having a policy dialogue. Because these matters can only be solved if they are made a priority by those that take the decisions at the highest political level. For governors to say, I will not only domesticate the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act or the Child Rights Act, I will not only domesticate it, I will also implement it. I want to be elected or maybe re-elected for being a champion in the fight against sexual and gender-based violence. This is what we want to see from the politicians, also at federal level, of course. And making sure that what can be done swiftly is done swiftly as well. Making sure that there's not a single state in this country where there are not available sexual assault referral centers, where these poor victims can go and be treated properly, receive medical care, but also receive legal advice, have access to justice through the law and enforcement, the police. I mean, it's only when everybody comes together and the institutions deliver, all hands on deck, that we will be able to fundamentally fight this scourge. But on the positive side, at least now it's out there in the public domain. There's a genuine dialogue around this particular matter, and that gives me hope that we can also see some genuine, real changes.
Well, Ambassador Karlsen, we started with Erasmus Plus. Let's close with that. I asked you earlier what the selection criteria are, and you said, well, merit is the main criteria. But I am aware that you have a Bridging the Gender Gap program in Nigeria. Bridging the Gender Gap, is this one of the considerations in the selection of candidates for the Erasmus Plus program? What is the percentage in terms of gender? Or is just an open-ended thing?
Well, thank you.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to end on such a positive note, and after having covered so much ground, and of course there are hundreds of things that we are doing in Nigeria that we cannot discuss in a brief morning program like this one. But let's by all means end on this very wonderful note, again reminding us that a record number of Nigerians have been selected to go to Europe. A very significant proportion of those are women. There's not a threshold established as such, but there is a very concerted effort to make sure that as many women participate as possible. By the way, to make sure as well that we have a geographical spreading. This year we have participants from 5 out of the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. I want all 6 of them to be there next year. The program itself gives priority to students coming from poor background, from more vulnerable conditions, and to women as well, to facilitate sometimes a slightly easier access to the program as well, because we want to have inclusivity. We want to make sure that as many as possible can participate. And then it's really an attractive program by the end of the day, and that's why I'm also certain it will be a life-changing experience. I mean, all of these people are not only going to one country and one university, they are going to several countries and several universities, some of them 2, some of them 3. They will be provided with a monthly, payment as well. All the costs for travel and accommodation is covered. So it's a quite attractive program. And that's of course also why we need to make sure that those that are selected will genuinely represent well Nigeria. They will go there as ambassadors of Nigeria, and then my hope is that they will, either get fantastic jobs in European businesses or come back to Nigeria and join me as ambassadors of the European Union as in Nigeria, coming back here in the end.
Very much, Ambassador Ketil Karlsen. I can assure you that by next year, you'll probably get applications running into hundreds of thousands. Thank you very much for this very useful engagement.